This is the Launch Station, the only place you need to look for all things onboarding, implementation, and customer success. Tune in for insights from industry experts every week.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Launch Station. Our topic for today is using sales as a multiplier for customer success. Are there things we can do through the sales process that will give us a leg up during customer onboarding and beyond? Assaf Barnir, our guest for today, says yes, and he has specific ways he's used sales as a multiplier for success. Assaf comes with a very diverse background. He's worked in software, worked with the Israeli Air Force, and companies like Amdocs, moved to consulting and delivery professional services roles across companies like IBM and Zendesk, and then transitioned to leadership roles in customer success. He's right now VP of Customer Success at Netomi. He's someone who has enjoyed working with and listening to customers, even as a software developer, and believes that his customer orientation has served him well throughout his career. Welcome to the show, Assaf.
Thank you very much. Looks like you really know me. You covered everything. Appreciate it.
Assaf, we're starting with a fun question here. What's your favorite quote from a book or a movie?
Okay, so that's a good one. And look, the only caveat I have is that every person I ever recommended the book and the quotes ended up not liking it. So no guarantee, but I'm going to give it a shot anyhow. Okay, it is a book written by a German author who is a philosopher, a psychology major, and an English literature person. She wrote a book called 3 Bags Full. It is a ship detective story. It is about a flock of ships that were humanized, trying to understand its surrounding and solve a mystery. Originally, it was written in German. I read it in English, of course. So the setup is different. The conversations are different. The perspective of the main characters is different than what you'd expect to. And one of the quotes that I like a lot, it says, "They can herd you only because you cannot herd yourself as a group. Forget the flock, forget the dogs, herd yourself." And that speaks volume to me. This is nothing against being part of a herd, nothing against being part of a group. It's very important. At the end of the day, no single team is better than a single individual. And I think with that state of mind, as she mentioned in the book, that's going to be your chance to be different, to be better, to show additional perspective to the team. And this is a calling. So it touched me. It touched me really, really well.
That's very unique and interesting, Assaf. So you've worked on a bunch of roles from delivery to professional services to customer success with some of the biggest companies in the world. What are your learnings and takeaways along this journey that you brought to Netomi?
Thanks for the question. And you're right. I touch on different customers and prospects at different stages in the life cycle with companies that sells everything from product to service, huge enterprise, the top 5 companies, but also the latest and the most isolated, quote unquote, engineer in different country. And I think that one thing that if we embed in our organization well is that at the end of the day, regardless of the role, regardless of the processes, regardless of how companies and people buy, those are people behind it. Those are the same people who ask for exceptional service and great UX when they use Facebook, when they use Uber. Those are the same people. The fact that they're coming to work and now they are running a very complex acquisition and onboarding and delivery process on behalf of their company does not mean that they are different people. So this is a call for 2 things, for the service provider, for the software builders, for the product owner, for the CX, to understand that this is the same person, but also from the actual person who use your product, for the person who walk you through the purchase process in the company, to act as one. There's no need to show, there's no need to say, yeah, in my personal life, it would matter to me if the UX is great, if I can do things by myself, if the reporting is amazing, if the KPI that I get from using my banking is tremendous. There's no reason to give up on all of those key things just because right now you're working for an airline. With that in mind, I believe we can easily set our entire industry to be able to provide the best service for the customer. So it didn't matter who did I sell to, what it was that they bought and how they bought it and how they were serviced. At the end of the day, know that these are people who use technology day in, day out. I think that helps a lot building trust and framing the right mode of operation with those customers or prospects, depends when you meet them.
I think that's very beautifully put, Assaf. I guess that's why there's this whole movement around consumerization of IT and now, bottoms up product led growth, because people are voting with their wallets and saying that they will use products that understand that they're the same users who are using, Facebook and Uber and Google.
Yeah. And you know what? I completely agree. And, just, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, we started using the word persona to describe who is it that we are working, selling to. And it's a persona, it is a person. And whether the person is the decision maker or your champion or the one that signed the check or the one that's responsible for working with you in program management, a type of a role, they are people, they are person. So yeah, we all take a little bit of a different role than our day-to-day, but at the end of the day, when you pick up the phone, it's Michelle, it's John, it's Varun, whoever it is, he's on the other side of the line, and that's important.
So in our earlier chat, you had mentioned about the kind of transformational changes that you had brought in for the sales teams that had a great multiplicative effect on customer success. Can you share more about this?
Yes, and I think that there's probably two questions hidden there. One is what is the sales and customer success role, and then how do we make it overall better for the company and the service that we are providing? Look, the role today, and you'd see it in many board meetings, and you'll see it in anything from what we report to the board and all the way to how the S1 for companies about to go public is set up. We put the dollars amount at the center. So everything is aligned with what is being sold, how it was sold, what bucket, what the cost of the bucket, etc. I believe this is missing the point. This is missing the point because when we look at what goes in and what goes out from a bank, we're actually forgetting that the main entity, think object-oriented, the main entity is the customer. So it's not dollar withdrew, dollar paid, dollar disputed. It is customer seeing value, etc., etc. Customer purchasing, customer increasing the spend, customer seeing value, customer downgrade the service. If we understand that the center of all of this conversation, while not economic, is about the customer, I think that's going to help us a lot, putting the finger on where things working well and where things not working well. So I think it is easier and more meaningful to address a leak in customer satisfaction or customer lack of usage of a specific feature. It's much easier than to find the leak in the churn bucket. And with that in mind, now going back to your question, we in some of the companies that I walked in, we define a framework that is doing exactly this, is actually putting the customer and not the contract in the center. And there are 6 steps, or some people call it in the company the famous 6 steps, that assure that we are getting the right customer. So, by the way, a lot of those items are not necessarily new. Those are definitely done, especially when the sales cycles include account executives who is on the phone, who is demoing. So it's not really new. The ownership, the attention, the accountability behind those 6 steps, this is where we see the need to have a more focus. So the first thing we do is opportunity review. It is if the customer is knocking on our door, or if we reach out to them, there's still a list of sometimes 10, 20, sometimes 40 questions that we need to know in order to assess whether this customer was told the right thing, has the right things in mind, can start imagining the value, is excited about the value that we're going to bring in them. So opportunity review is going to include basic questions such as industry or number of relevant, named the roles that you are selling to. In Netomi is a conversational AI platform, so we care a lot about the number of agents and the system that they're using. So that's going to be one of the stage. The second stage, which is a little bit a little bit more unique perhaps, is customer success ideal customer profile. And here we are separating the company's ICP, ideal customer profile, and talking about CS ICP. So if as a company we decide that we want to go after that region, this expertise, this technology, this use case, etc., that will be all fine. But at the end of the day, it is the CS and delivery, the one that needs to put the customer at the best spot and make them referenceable, right? That's our goal. That's the number one goal. So we have many questions that helps us identify whether not only this customer is right for our company, but also can we, based on what we have right now, make them successful. And so some of the questions are, so it's a list of 11, 12 different questions, but some of them are whether we need any additional product development work for them. Are the KPIs very clear and are aligned with how we lead our customer to measure themselves? So if we want to look at AI accuracy and AI business value, is the business value and accuracy that the customer see, is it the same? Can we measure it? Can we show it? Are there any accelerators? Because if you are already an airline or insurance company or many other type of customers that Netomi is already using, we have an acceleration because we have an AI module that is already smart enough to not start from scratch. So different elements, different questions that we are asking ourselves, and at the end of that process, we know how much of a fit the customer or the prospect is for customer success. And that, at some point, if we need to prioritize, if we need to say no, if we need to say, if we need to make promises on timeline and scope, we would feel more comfortable doing this when we know that the customer is ideal for the delivery and customer success side as well. A couple of additional steps are everything from knowing the customer's data, because we are AI data, so AI company, so we don't start with nothing and then go in. We actually training our modules based on data, a system requirement, our questionnaires that we send to our customers, all the way until we have an implementation proposal. So all of those 6 steps are what makes a purchase decision to a start of a journey together decision. And it's not about a sales cycle that once it ends, another team is coming in and trying to do the best they can, but rather there are never surprises, not on the customer side, not on the customer success side. We know we are able to identify and mitigate all the risks and build a implementation proposal that would make sense for the customer. So going back to how you started it, we are looking at the whole process in an upside down manner. Rather than having customers being brought by sales that we onboard, we are working side by side with sales and say, yes, we can make those customers very, very happy. And because our entity is the customer and not the revenue, we are committed to a job well done, not the worth of the contract. And we don't care if it is a 1 year or 3 years or 5 years contract. We just focus on the customer. And those steps and those questions enable us to bring only the best customers and make them successful in the most predictable way. And that's something that we all need to appreciate.
Wow, that's really very interesting, because I think usually your ICP stops at, okay, we're going to sell to these kind of people. But instead you're looking at, hey, is this the kind of customer we can make successful? And I think that's an interesting way for a company to operate. I'm curious if you actually turn down customers if you know it's hard to make them successful.
That's a tricky one. So the short answer is yes. Short answer is yeah, and then going to be multiple reasons. At the end of the day, we are a software company, and we can build everything, and we can make everything a reality. But we also have an opinionated product team, and we know what we are going after. And if we believe that this customer with those specific needs is going to be derailing us from all the other ones, then we need to say no to some projects. And another way to look at it is to say we say yes to the other 50 projects. And not always it's easy because 80% of our company are engineers, and I'm an engineer. So if we think we can do it, then let's do it. But then we are thinking as business people growing a company, and then we say, you know what, we probably need to hold off of this because we have 50 other opportunities that are more repeatable, more scalable, more predictable, that we have yes, 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 yes answers to all of the customer success, ideal customer profile questionnaire, and we want to focus there. Those are not always easy conversation with sales, but this is part of growing the company.
Yeah. So customer success as a team informs what is the real ICP versus just looking at how many dollars came in from those customers and saying let's get more of those. Now we are looking at which customers we made successful before and let's go and get more of those. And I guess one mistake a lot of startups do is that we somehow think of this as a limited pool of opportunities. And so, we feel we need to chase every opportunity coming our way. Instead, if we can pick only those that today we can make successful, and I'm sure there will be enough of those, then we're going to set ourselves up for success as well. Instead, we can start with picking only those that we know we can make successful today. And I'm guessing there always will be enough of those as well.
Many times, the way to address it with the board, with yourself, with the team, is to simply add another filter to the pipeline, to the sales pipeline, and immediately mark, yeah, we got 100 leads, but 20% expect something that we don't want to build in the next 2 years. So let's invest in relationship. Let's invest in keeping in touch. Let's maybe, when it is relevant, let's have them have some impact on what we are doing. But for now, we just need to say, we need to say no. Look, even at, so I spent multiple years in Zendesk. And on one hand, Zendesk is a very clear platform with very clear ins and outs and APIs, and everybody knows what can and cannot be done. My team and myself were able to really do creative things in order to help customers implementing Zendesk at their side. But we were able to do it because Zendesk used their own APIs, because Zendesk gave JavaScript access to everything, CSS, HTML. So the product was built so it is extendable. But even products such as Zendesk, there were simply customers that we needed to say it can't be done. And then we found other ways. So not always we need to reject customers if there's a way to adapt, to have the customer adapt the requirement to what it is that we can do in order to meet their to meet their needs. And this is where the importance of a opinionated, knowledgeable product team have the best impact. And then we don't even have to say no, we just need to say, this is how we can approach it. And so try to sell on this.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've seen quite a few organizations do that as well. Going back to your introduction, we touched upon the aspect of customer orientation or customer centricity. How has this customer centricity driven some of your other high impact work and initiatives?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes I wonder if I am someone else's good customer because I have many customers, or if I make the life of my service providers more difficult because I have high expectations. And I don't know the answer to this. I guess my wife has a couple of ideas, but beside that, in general, I believe that customers don't want to be sold to. They don't want to be said, here is your timeline, here's what you need to do, here is why this is better than that. But rather they want to have the information at the tip of their fingers. They want to be. They want to be educated. They want questions to be answered. They want to get the look and feel. They want to put a little bit of that gut feeling. Oh, you know what? I've never tried this tool, but I know the company and they build this other tool, so I'm going to give it a shot. The most simple example, every tower defense game that this company ever released on Android was really good. So I don't need to be sold why the next one is very good. So I'm going to be putting that $2, $3, $4 in order to get that, because you convinced me that you have a solid product. You convinced me that you have a great support. You educated me on this genre of games or apps or service. So just let me choose. Customers, I believe, love marketplace, and we are all in the marketplace. Netomi has competitors, but Netomi is also the best at what it does. So let's educate them. Let's bring them to our front line. Let them see what we can do that is better. Another thing that is important to me, we sometimes think that we can tell customers what is their success, but it's a bit more tricky. We know what the best way to measure a platform, a product success, but at the end of the day, this must come from the customer, so we can educate them. This is how we suggest you measure, or people like you measure this in that way. So for example, when I get my reporting from my Nest thermostat, and they tell me you did 15% more or 12% less than my neighbors. This is an interesting metrics that personally I don't care about, but they put it in front of me. So if they ask me, if there are actually other metrics that I want to see about how I use my electricity and how I try to help the environment. There's no, on one hand, there's no one side fit all, but on the other hand, lots of education is supposed to and need to go in. So putting everybody in one bucket, coming up with one KPI that works for all, may be a miss, but also opportunities for other companies. And I see it in the last few companies I worked with. If a company highlighted specific metrics that wasn't necessarily the metrics the company, the customer care about, then they came to me because we listen well, we know what's important, and we are flexible enough to make that KPI available for you as well. The third point about making it a customer-centric operation, my instinct is to say, because I'm in this business for a long time and because I'm a consumer in my own world, I want to say the companies put customers at the center of their operation and making sure that they help to drive adaptation. I really wanted to say that, but that is absolutely not the case. Everything from banking to the travel industry to a lot of B2B companies, not only the customer, the user, the champion is not at the center, but many times they don't even know who is that customer, what's important to them, what journey would make the most sense for that specific buyer. I sat through multiple sessions in many industries, everything from energy to telco to session with developers. In any one of them, the first instinct was to build a process that fits a specific persona. But as we dive more into the details, we realized that we know nothing, that the expectation is different, that it can't be that industry veterans can even begin to know what journey and what is the focus of a 19-year-old engineer who is now building the next startup. We just can't, unless we understand that we don't know and we just sit down and listen. And when we sit down and listen, rather than making assumption, that is really putting the customer centricity as part of the company goal. Again, because we switched from dollar as the main entity in the company to a customer, and then everything else we just streamlined accordingly.
So Assaf, how easy is it to usually convince the management of a company, like the CEO and founders and so on, to start focusing on customers and stop focusing on dollars? Have you found that to be hard, or do you choose to work at places where you feel there is this alignment already in place with your philosophy?
It is very hard. It is very hard, and it doesn't come without a try and error. But at the end of the day, the proof is at what your customers tell you. Dollars are not referenceable. Dollars are something you mention behind closed door in board meetings, and then if you are a public company. But these are the numbers. These are not a story. These are the results. These are not at the core reasons. So definitely in any one of my last companies, Zendesk for sure, PubNub, Netomi, the founders, the founding team, the team of the management team definitely put the customer at the top. And when we say that this function from this customer does not work well, then we are all going to fix it. For example, customer experience from this page on a website. If it doesn't do the trick, then I have the winning card, me, the team, everybody. We have the winning card. Customers are not seeing value. When we talk about enhanced analytics, it's because customers don't see that value. So while I can say it is true across all companies, I was definitely lucky enough in the last 10 years, anyone any one of my peers, the management team, executive, we were all definitely aligned. Look, it is, I do think there's a different level of adaptation to this concept. There's, if you are managing 100 enterprise customers, or if you are managing 50,000 developers or more, then the focus may be changed a little bit, but the same motivation, the same object-oriented, quote unquote, approach that is that will bring is a differentiator, and that's important. But that's a very good question, because I wouldn't take that obvious. Maybe I'm just very loud. I don't know.
Nice. So Assaf, I'm going to stick to the customer centricity theme again. I remember we spoke about this before, and you mentioned that customer success and delivery are the number one customer of your own product. So how does that work in your organization?
Yeah, I think you touch on a point that I'm very proud of. In the last few companies. Customer success, delivery, professional services. All those teams are the team that has two expertise that nobody in the company has. It is a combination of, we know the product the best, and we are customer facing, right? So sure, sales may spend more time with customers. Engineers may know more about what they build, product, about what they find, but we are the one team that is a combination of both of those things. We know the product really, really well, and we know the customers really, really well. That makes us, it's a gold mine of opportunities for our product team. And when they get it, good things happen. So we are the first people to use the product. We are the first one to use the API. We are the first one to use the new modules in the UI. We are the first people who are actually going to be doing something that customers would later do by themselves. And we are doing it as part of our job. It's not, they're not signing CS to be product and engineering QA team. Once QA is complete, while things are in production, we are the one that is simply using the product the most. Think Zendesk using Zendesk to manage their support. Think PubNub using their own API to build a chat SDK. Think Netomi using our UI components called AI Studio in order to manage the customer's AI journey. So we are the best customers, and we are the friendliest one, not the quiet one. We are loud, but we are definitely the most stubborn one and the most knowledgeable one. So when a new release is coming, a new module, a new capability, a new integration, a new data science capabilities that we are all excited about, we are the first one to come up with feedback. Not only because we are many customers, but also because we care and we allow for this conversation. So product expect to get that feedback. So with that state of mind, I think that makes us the best customers, which is a combination of, we know our stuff and we are loud and we want your success. So we are your number one referenceable customers. We're gonna shout from the rooftop why this is the best module ever, but for that you need to work hard first, and that's happening. That's good news.
So that's super interesting, and I must agree that our own team dogfooding our product is definitely the best customer, also because we don't churn. One more question around this though. When we work with customers, you have a success team, delivery team, account management team, all of them doing different roles, taking on responsibilities. How do you orchestrate all of this and give a seamless experience to your customer?
That's a good question. And AI is a new field for many. Many times, Netomi and other AI projects are the first projects ever that are AI driven to be implemented in different companies. So we know that there's a few additional steps or different steps that need to be taken in order to make the customer AI ready and AI safe and feeling comfortable. And for that, we have a very strong delivery team. Pause a second. We have a very strong delivery team, and it has everything from engineers to data science to data analysts to product owners, business owners, and QA. they work very closely with the CSMs, whose job is not only to see that the process is moving forward, the onboarding move forward, but also that there always alignment as for where we are, what we are doing, what are the risks, how do we mitigate them, and how do we know, and how do we see quick results. And some of the reason for all of this to happen is that indeed one of our team KPI is time to first value. From when we started working together, when is the first time that you actually, sorry, time to first value, which is from when we start working on your project, when we understand your story, when you understand our platform, how soon can you actually starting to see value coming from that collaboration, from that partnership? That put the teams, both the CSMs, the project managers, the solution architect, the delivery team, with all its glory, it puts their focus on one or two very specific KPIs. And I think that makes a difference between having a project that lasts forever and maybe seeing some result at some point, to a project that has a starting point, a very clear scope, known resources, known dependencies, both on the Netomi side and on the customer side, and a goal that we all want to hit. And then when we partner to hit that goal, be it volume, quality, accuracy, etc., that's gonna work great. That's how we measure ourselves, and that's where we see success. So this orchestration is very important. Templatized it, very important. Knowing, sharing and knowing with product what are the needs and where are the soft points, also very important. But when this all works well, then as you said, it is a perfect orchestration.
That's very nice and insightful, Assaf. Now we move to our next section of the podcast, which is our rapid fire questions. Here's the first one. Who's the person you've learned from the most?
This is a very good question, and I am sharing a cheesy alert with you because my answer may be a bit cheesy. I learned from all of the CEOs and other high-level executives in the companies I work for and with. They are sharp, they are focused, they are amazing product officers, they are people person, which makes them customer person, which makes my life easy and put me at ease. But I will choose someone who is actually a soccer player, and his name is Eli, and he played in a Jerusalem team. He is one of 10 kids, struggling family, struggling financially, struggling in many areas, including early death in his close surrounding. When he became the first Israeli soccer player to ever win a European title when he played for another team in Belgium. And then he put his heart over everything else. And his original team, the Jerusalem team, had really hard time playing in the league. They were actually demoted. So he came back as a hero, and year after year, they won championship. He put them back on the top. And for me, that tells a story of sometimes you take care of yourself and your goals. You go to where your expertise are. Sometimes you need to take, sometimes you may choose something a bit different that may not be best for your bank account for sure, but it's just doing the right things and go with your heart. So he prioritized that over international, even bigger success. So I salute him, and I still see it as when things are hectic and we're all chasing the next best and biggest thing, I still pause and I think about his decisions, and it inspires me. I got to say that now he's also managing the team. So really great and inspiring people a person that I learned a lot from.
Yeah, definitely very inspiring. Here's my next question. What comes to mind when I say customer?
Ooh, I can write so many other keywords, but probably the best one is partner. And the reason I think about them as partners is because the best customers are the ones that choose you, as opposed to you sold them. So I love to see partnership between two active people, companies. I believe that is the best setup. So when I'm pre-sale, post-sale, when I'm jumping on calls, I treat them as partners. sure, I'm going to be the one doing a lot of the work for you. But at the end of the day, our goals are aligned and we're going to make this successful. And as a result, there's no better name than partner. In my mind, it's almost always interchangeable.
Nice. And I wasn't expecting that. Moving to the next question. What's an important metric that you always pay attention to?
So I'm going to be a bit loud in my answer, very black and white. Okay, you're asking about metrics, and before I name one of the top metrics for me, I gotta say that there must be a metrics. If there's no metrics, then there's no reason to wake up. There's no reason to do the job. There's no reason to sign a contract. There's no reason for anything. Metrics is the key, and there's no project if we don't know when you started, what is the goal, what are the resources, how do you measure it, and so just the same level of certainty and metrics must be there. One of the one metrics that I can see an entire company standing behind is one that is very specific for customers, and it is being referenceable, being able to, at any format, stand on the rooftop and say, I loved it. Go to Product Hunt and give it a thumbs up. Go to LinkedIn and say, it's great. Go to a conference. Remember those days where conferences, people met together, actually going there and say how much it works well. But it can also be a video recording or a quote. The reason I like referenceable customers is because it is not one team success. It is not that customer success did the right thing. It is that marketing brought the right kind of customer, that sales were able to sell them the truth of what they're going to be getting, that delivering customer success were able to use the right product and the right component in order to make this customer referenceable. So this is one metric that on one hand is very selfish to me because it is customers being referenceable, so I love it, but I do know that every department in the company contribute to that same metrics in the same way. And if that is where we are all going, that's our North Star metrics. You will never have an argument about what to prioritize over something else. You will never waste time on things that are not directly impacting that metrics. So I vote referenceability.
That's a beautiful answer, Assaf. And I think this will be something that I look to adopt for my company. Number of referenceable customers sounds like a great metric to track. By now, I'm guessing all of those listening to the show would also know that you're a very passionate person and you have some strong opinions. I know you have a take on this already. And I think everyone should hear your take on when one should invest in a customer success tool.
Well, the short answer is never, but not really, and I will explain. And I don't want to step over many companies that provide tools that are great, and I'm actually using one of them to be completely honest. It's there are many questions that you need to answer to yourself really truthfully before you make this decision. If you don't answer those questions, then let it be that the answer for buying customer success tool is either never, or way later, or years after you really think that you need one. And I'll explain. At the end of the day, we are in the business of people, of communication, of conversation. And sure, we need to scale it in a right way, but we also need to see that we understand, for example, who is the biggest beneficiary of the tool. Is it the CEO? Is it the VP of sales? Or is it the VP customer success? And that's very important because many times CEO would say, I want that tool so I can know A, B, C, and D. So it's not that if we bring that tool, we will know the answers. So a lot of research needs to go ahead of time into this and see what questions are important to us, what are the metrics, and how do we get them. Many times I've seen a UI that are standing without any integration to any systems, and everything was manually put in. It didn't give a snapshot of the status, and it was just a beautiful UI that instead of using Google Sheet, which is basically free, people use the 6-digit software just to show information that was completely just typed in. That is a miss. So who is the beneficiary? That's a very important question. Whether we have the relevant data sets, what they are, how do we get there, what system they are in, I pushed back against 2 different companies who showed me the most beautiful UI, but that was only 5% of the effort that we needed to do. The other 95% was our data team needed to go in and create reports and maintain it, and it was very, very painful. So just to buy a beautiful window, that was also a little bit of waste of resources and time. So going back to the Google Sheet question, can you do it in Google Sheet at least for the next quarter or 2 years until you know what it is that you're looking for? Once you get that, I think that's going to be the answer of when and what tool is going to be becoming very, very clear.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So and despite despite my my concerns and questions about what tool to buy, if to use a tool, and the fact that it really needs to be really, really late, I've got to say that for the last 8 years, I did not use, in multiple companies, I did not use any tool. And it doesn't mean that we don't need the data, don't need the metrics, don't need the knowledge base in place. We definitely need playbooks. All of this can be in place. You don't need a system for a playbook. A system provides something different. I think the first time that I actually spent dollar on a software after working in multiple companies is when we saw that we have the right data, the right mechanism, the right snowflake in place to send us the triggers. And when a company simply grow 10x, and then the importance become obvious. So it's not no ever. It is a lot of things to consider before you do this. I think I also wrote a blog somewhere that in a very cheek and tongue actually I talk a little bit more about it. Buying a customer success tool is it's just like buying a CRM, and many companies are buying Salesforce way too early when all they need is a simple solution. So just beware.
I think I definitely can agree with you that if you aren't able to pull the data, if you don't have that readiness and are depending on manual work, then probably you're not ready for the tool yet. I'm going to find that blog post of yours and share it with our audience. You need to be at the right stage, have that readiness. You need to be able to pull the data automatically. You need developers' bandwidth, and maybe it should be an org priority for this to happen. Now we move to our last section. We have questions coming in from our audience in our Rocket Lane Slack community and from Twitter. Here's the first one. If sales has to work hand in hand with customer success teams and vice versa, do you suggest making changes in their KPIs to reflect that in some way?
The question starts with an assumption that sales and CSM needs to work together hand in hand. This assumption is 100% correct, and it's true for many types of customer acquisition and customer profile. It is not the case for all. I worked in companies with no sales per se. We know of more companies that they don't have sales because everything is very self-fulfilled, self-managed. But if I'm stop being a smartass and I'm talking about when we do need sales and when we do need CS, every one of the team will have different responsibilities and hence separate KPIs. What we need to see as management is that one does not contradict the other, because if a sales team is going to be selling and hitting the quota, but none of those customers is ICP, ideal customer profile, or customer success ideal customer profile, then we were successful in one side, but we were not successful in the other. That may cause confusion, that may cause frustration. That is misalignment. I think one of the ways to get there is to have this high-level North Star metrics. Think about referenceable customers. If sales is looking to sell to someone that we don't believe can ever be a referenceable customer, then we should put a foot down and say, let's not sell to them. Or let's find a way to make them referenceable, and then we have a conversation, which is the best possible way. I do like the fact that sales are driven on quota, and they are based on dollars amount. Again, when sales team is needed, that's not always the case. I am happy to see where CSM's KPI are about satisfaction and customer seeing value and first time to value and measure relationship in any possible way. owning the road to make them referenceable, and they don't need to worry about the dollars amount. They do need to worry about renewal. They do need to find the opportunities to expand the customer, but they're not responsible for the dollars amount. And I think this mode mostly works well. There are always exceptions, but it works well.
Absolutely. Great answer, Assaf. Here's another one, and I think it's pretty interesting. For customer success teams, in a way, it's less risky to start small from an implementation perspective, whereas commissions for the sales team may be tied with the size of a new deal, and they may want to go big bang with a big implementation. How can we nurture a symbiotic win-win relationship between these two teams?
You see, this is a problem that is being created when the dollar amount is in the center of the customer journey, and that's exactly it. If the company is gonna celebrate bigger contract without having the right mechanisms, skill sets, delivery readiness, then these are dollars that should have not celebrated yet. So I do know that different ways of bringing customers on board. I personally like the one that customers goes in specific price point, and as they see more value, they increase the payment. It's very clear to me, and then it's measurable. And then it's one KPI for sales and for customer success. You bring me this customer, we're going to start at one thing. They're going to be using it more and more. They're going to be seeing more and more value. We're going to do all the right things. We're going to provide this amazing value. Hence, the customer will pay more. I like this model way more than someone buy a car that can travel well in snow, but it's summer and there's no snow, and they don't use it for anything snow. I think that buyer's decision is interesting, and it is a waste of the buyer's money that for half a year they bought something they cannot even use. So I think the alignment are supposed to be the company itself is supposed to think about what they're selling, what is the upgrade path, what is the increase value path, and increase in the MRR, ARR. But if that's not happening, then the customer success team, the delivery team, needs to be part of building of the contract and setting a very clear expectation of timeline. It can be a separate SOW, it can be part of the contract, but it will show exactly what is going to happen at what point in time, and how does the exit point from any one of those stages look like. And then the customer will say, I'm paying here, I'm going to see this value, and I'm going to see how those two things continue to be aligned. And then nobody's chasing their own tail. There's no disappointment at any side.
Assaf, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for your insights. It was great to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the question and attention to the details, and good luck, guys.
Thank you.